Hey guys, hey everyone, welcome to this week's Burning Questions. Myself and Alex have an exciting show ahead. So I think we can get straight into it, Alex? So today's quote of the week that we have highlighted and has been performing well on our social media platforms is a quote card by Milton Friedman, who is an American economist. And Milton Friedman essentially says, we need a government to ensure the safety of its citizens, to provide police protection, but unfortunately, government is failing in this regard. And Alex, do you have any thoughts? I know that the Milton Friedman speaks in a very American context, but are there some similarities that we actually see happening in South Africa right now with this scorecard as well?
Absolutely. I mean, I can't exactly remember when this quote was made, but he was speaking to an American context. Places like New York used to suffer from immense levels of crime in the I think it was 1980s, 1970s, 1980s, and they cleaned up their act to a large degree. But that's one of the ultimate functions of the state is to keep its citizens safe. And when I think there was news just yesterday, Sholan, that you were chatting to some colleagues on the Daily Friend show about there's been 442 mass killings in the Western Cape in the last 18 months, which I think extrapolates to over 500 people. And we know how bad murder rates are, how gender-based violence in South Africa. And unfortunately, your freedom is so severely limited when you don't feel safe enough to walk the streets, and to trade, to do business, when your property is not protected, when you have threat of your home being invaded. So yeah, I think we don't need to tell anyone at home how bad things are, but it's certainly something that we need to address, and I'm sure people in the comments did that as well.
Yeah, speaking of people in the comments, one thing that we also just want to flag is some of the comments and responses that we actually received regarding fans' quote cards, because I mean, fans' quote cards tend to generate a lot of engagement on our social media platforms, and people have a lot to say. And one of our comments is by Savas Nathaniel. And he essentially asked us, like, what government are we supposed to be referring to? Because we have a mafia organization running this country. And I mean, we have a lot. I mean, the ANC is a lot of things. But or is it maybe a stretch that we extending to calling it a mafia organization or a criminal syndicate? Because I know, Alex, there was always reports like coming from places like the case in KwaZulu-Natal, where there's actually cases where ANC members and the ruling party members actually like assassinate one another. There's political assassination is quite the thing, and because people want different what do you call it, positions and so forth. But do you think calling the ANC a mafia organization is a step too far, or is it maybe a very good description of the organization?
You know what? I actually want to give so much credit. I think it's not so far fetched. If you even look, like our deputy president is embroiled in some scandals in Mpumalanga with some game farms in there over there. As you mentioned, political killings in KZN is a massive problem. Speak about safety and security issues. It even affects the governing party itself. Obviously, former President Jacob Zuma is embroiled in stuff. There was the arms deal, state capture. Then you've got the Estina dairy farm in Free State with Ace Makashule. You've got the asbestos case. So you know what? I don't think it's that far fetched. And I think what Savas touches on is that they're running the show to enrich themselves, which ultimately I think they are. The ANC, the government, the governing party. So I think he's onto something there. We've just lost your volume, Sholan.
Oh, sorry. So another thing I was going to mention was that so one of our another one of our comments actually touched on the fact that it's not enough that we expect the government to come and save us. But this comment is actually from Mark Stephen, and he essentially says that we are supposedly out of touch, and the thing is that we don't need more. We need to be armed against what this quote supposedly advocates for, because the police are defunct. Yeah, and I mean, in South Africa, our 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 police is in a terrible state, and I think that's the reason why we see so much more private security in the country. But one thing I think we actually never spoke about yet, Alex, and
Mm.
I actually wanted to also get your views on this. Do you think that, gun rights in South Africa for ordinary citizens is actually a necessary thing? Should if things are already so chaotic in the country with crime and so forth, should we be arming citizens with more weapons, in a legal manner, of course?
Yeah, I think we spoke out in Freedom Fanatics, Sholan, about keeping like law and order, or rather the rule of law in place. You've got to
Yes.
abide by the rules, and I think the big problem in South Africa is illegal firearms, particularly being sort of let loose by police officers. And I think citizens having the freedom to arm themselves is incredibly important. And the problem with when the state starts to become as dysfunctional as it seems to be heading, is that you struggle to regulate things such as firearms. And I know a lot of, well, not personally, but I know of stories of people who firearms owners are generally quite responsible people that want to abide by the law. I think most South Africans do want to abide by the law, but when your institutions fall apart around you, and your leaders don't lead by example, then it makes it incredibly difficult to get people to play by the rules.
Yeah, and I know from one of the gun rights activists on social media, specifically Gideon Joubert, one of the things he always highlights is that the process to actually own a firearm and be able to protect yourself is quite it's a very complex and complicated one. So if you actually do get your firearm license, I kind of think you must probably be somebody that can be trusted, because I know that SAPS tends to do over and above background checks, make sure all the procedures, all your documentation is in order. So yeah, I definitely hear your point
And
with
I
regard to
think,
that.
Sholan, it also goes to say it speaks to other elements of service delivery and dealing with bureaucracy. How difficult, maybe where you're based in Cape Town, it's a little bit easier, but getting a driver's license, renewing your driver's license, renewing your car license disc. Anyone who's been to Home Affairs in the last 5 to 10 years will know no one looks forward to it. So if we made these processes a lot easier, a lot more people would make the effort to make sure that they're above board and following due process.
Yeah, absolutely. Alex, thank you for sharing your views with us this burning episode, questions episode. And to our viewers, you can engage, you can go leave comments that we are able to read on our podcast episodes. Go and do it at Badge of Liberty Freedom Advocacy Network on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Spotify, Google Podcasts, wherever you on social media, go and get us there, and definitely engage with our content, and leave us your thoughts, and we will definitely be sure to read up on it and engage with it as best as possible. But thank you guys for joining this week's episode of Burning Questions. We will see you guys next week, and yeah, have a good week. So see you guys.